and welcome to episode 4 of Alternate Future of the World. Let's get into it. We're back. Last episode, lots of stuff happened, like the Central Asian Wars, some sort of countries leaving NATO, the collapse of the NATO capital, and let's get into it. So we're actually going to be starting in Antarctica, because at this point, the Antarctic Treaty is 100 years old at this point. And, some countries want to divide the continent. And let's see some countries' claims. So, some countries are going to go and come to the Antarctic Conference in order to divide up the continent. Those countries are, and I will be using colors to represent them, America, Argentina, South Africa, which will be represented by yellow, India, China, all those countries. Australia, there's going to be, if I can find an appropriate color, how about this color, France and Britain will all be invited and join this conference. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 nations. And let's see how they divide the continent. Let's start with what South Africa gets out of this conference. And this is what the South Africans get out of the conference. Next, let's do Argentina's claim. And this is the claim that Argentina gets. Now let's look at Australia's claim. And this is what the Australians get. And those are the smaller countries' claims. Now let's see what the British and the French get, starting with the British. And this is what the British claims look like. Now let's look at the French claims. And this is the claim that the French get. Oh, and also this thing here, nope, wrong thing. This thing here, it's Argentinian. Now let's look at the claims of India, which India is going to get this, China is going to get this, and finally America is going to get this. And that is how Antarctica is divided, with the colors. And this is what it looks like without the colors. And now we can remove these dots, because now they won't be needed, because Antarctica has been divided, with official claims. Some countries are going to be mad, like Norway and Chile. Those countries are going to be mad, and there's not much they can do, as the major powers of the world have already came. Time to go back to Africa, as Nigeria is becoming even more imperialist, as Ivory Coast is going to join their country. Become a sort of member of their empire country thing. And quickly, this is becoming a big empire. A pretty big empire. And Nigerians are going to try and get Gabon into this. The next thing that will be happening, as Nigeria is, as of now, one of the strongest countries in the world, as I've mentioned before, is going to be invading Cameroon for some reason. As the Nigerian troops will be invading into Cameroon, they will be doing very well, as a lot of this area is their core territory, at least near it, so a lot of the people are there, so they can go in and take all the territory. And quickly they will be able to take out Cameroon. Let's look at the peace treaty. And this is the peace treaty for annexation. And yet another country annexed by Nigeria. And try to guess what happens to Equatorial Guinea. Border gets erased. And some countries, specifically in Africa, are not going to like this. So they are going to be joining different alliances. Like Chad is going to join the Circle Alliance, while some of these other countries here will be joining the East African Federation's alliance. And now, just Libya is left. And so far, Libya does not know what to do, and they don't think Nigeria would expand it. And yeah, Nigeria, as of now, is behind America, China, India, and Russia, the fifth strongest country in the world. Even stronger than the East African Federation alone, but they might not be able to defeat all of this alliance combined. They might not be able to defeat that, but who knows? Now it's time to go back to the NATO alliance thing, as NATO is still collapsing, and just like they did with the European Union, the British will leave NATO. But this time it's the European Union. This time, yeah. And some of these other countries may be starting to leave. Like Iberia decides to start to leave. Yeah. And pretty importantly, the Danish will be leaving NATO. That is a big thing. And because of these whole Antarctic claims, it's going to make it even worse, as a bunch of the countries that got nothing out of the conference, like a bunch of Western Europe, are going to leave NATO. And that's not very good, as NATO's become Eastern European aligned. But one country stays. Yep, France and Italy. And the rest is just Eastern Europe. Yeah. And then, yeah, the Germanics, they may be doing some stuff, and they convinced the Netherlands to join them. Somehow. I don't know how, but they somehow do. And this is not going very well for them, as they're also inviting the British to join France and make the sort of Western European Union thing, but it doesn't happen. And that is the current update of NATO. And this is really starting to weaken America's influence. Yeah. And, if we go to Southeast Asia, this is happening. As the Vietnamese and the Thailand country is going to be invading Laos. And very quickly, they will be able to take out Laos. Let's look at a peace treaty. And this is the peace treaty. So, Laos divided. Yeah, that's something. Now it's time to go to the Middle East. Yeah, because, I wonder what's going to happen to Kuwait. And that's expected. Let's look at the peace treaty. And, Kuwait is not doing so well. And this Middle Eastern pact is sort of going well. Wonder what Libya's doing in there. They're not doing anything. And with these countries here, so in other countries, they don't want to join. So, these countries in this alliance are going to decide to declare war on all of these countries. So Qatar, UAE, Yemen, and Oman. Quickly, Qatar is outran, and Yemen is being pushed into, and because they're kind of unstable. Yeah. And as the Saudi Arabians will be pushing in, and they will be able to basically take out Yemen out of this war. Yeah, and leaving just Oman. The UAE, though, is having success with the huge military. Yeah. Until the Iranians will make a huge landing in the UAE and capture Dubai. And that will force them to fall back. And eventually, yeah, doesn't go so well for them as they lose the war. Let's look at the peace treaty. And this is the peace treaty. So yeah, this Middle Eastern Pact, Islamic Pact thing is really expanding greatly. And now it's time to see what happens in Libya. Okay, these countries will declare war on it for refusing to join their alliance. So, and they will all be invading and sending troops through. And with the giant militaries going into a smaller one, yeah, Libya is going to collapse. Let's look at a peace treaty. And this is the peace treaty, the division of Libya. You know, this sort of Islamic pact is really becoming big. And Turkey is neutral, and they have a couple options to choose. They are not joining back up with NATO. They might not want to be associated with Russia. Maybe they'd want to join the Islamic Pact, but again, yeah, some of your enemies are here. Or maybe align with the Americans, yeah. So for now, Turkey's going to be neutral. And now it's time to go to South America, because this trade pact thing by China is going to be even more successful, as every single country that is currently in South America, except Colombia and France, are going to join it. France is in South America because of French Guinea. Yeah. And this trade pact is going to expand even more, just not out of South America, like Mexico, or at least Mexico, yeah. And a bunch of these South American, Central American countries will be joining it. Yeah. And they also will get Ethiopia somehow. And even some other countries. Yeah, this thing. Yeah. Oh, what are you doing here, Mongolia? Mongolia is, yeah. I don't know why they still exist. So both Russia and China will declare war on them. And, the Chinese military alone is bigger than the entire population of Mongolia. So, they just kind of walk in there. Let's look at a peace treaty. And this is the peace treaty. So both Russia and Mongolia will get land. Yeah. And, no, Russia and China will get land. Nepal and Bhutan? Bhutan is going to join India for some reason. And they finally recognize India. Unless they already did. They don't recognize many countries. And so will Nepal. And the papers are finally signed, and the unification between Myanmar and India finally happens. And India's empire may end with just Pakistan. Yeah, and maybe some land in Tibet. Just saying. Time for Indonesia. Indonesia is becoming powerful, and they are going to make their own economic alliance. Wait, is there a square economic alliance? No. They are going to make their economic alliance out of a square, and Australia and New Zealand are going to join it. Yeah. And also, the Australians will be joining this pact thing here. Yeah. And some other countries will be joining this alliance. Like, yeah. Indonesia technically is controlling a lot of stuff as they gain more influence around the Indian Ocean area. Yeah. Yeah. Now let's go back to Europe, because NATO is going to collapse even more as more and more countries will start to leave. Like Sweden. Yeah. But a total collapse in NATO can't happen. And some countries are going to attempt and resolve the problem by unifying, specifically these three countries. And this is the unification between these three countries. And also, yeah, this whole unification in France thing is going to bring NATO back together, as Andorra and the Iberian country will be joining this union of Western Europe. And Germany is signing the papers. And eventually the papers are signed, and Germany joins the union of NATO. Yeah, and now NATO is becoming more and more intact. But they still need the British and the Scandinavian countries. But for now, it's pretty united. And also, yeah, nothing too out of the ordinary here. Just some average old countries. Maybe not average old, some countries uniting. Yeah, like that. And Slovenia used to exist, and I will still make you exist. And Europe is getting a lot less countries. Azerbaijan, they leave NATO, which may or may not just be their biggest mistake. Okay. So now with the Iranians and the Russians both going into these countries, yeah, it's not going so well for them. Let's look at the peace treaty. And this is the peace treaty. And Russia with their empire is just needs a couple more countries in Europe to reform a certain union. Certain communist union. Yeah, that's a little scary. Russia became still one of the strongest. And America is still losing its influence. And that is going to do it for today's video or episode of Alternate Future. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. See you in the next episode. Oh, also, if you made it here to the end, just saying, do you feel like the series is going like a little fast pace? Like within the first 4 episodes, we have a Cold War thing happening. The USSR and Russian Empire things almost forming, a bunch of other stuff happening. What's your opinion on that? Do you want it to stay fast paced like this already, or do you want it to slow down a bit? Just saying. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. See you in the next episode, and bye.